Hello, and thank you for watching this regional update for the southern U.S. I'm Andrew Pritchard, Senior Meteorologist with Nutrien Ag Solutions. We have a lot to talk about across the south, from a winter storm across parts of New Mexico, Texas, and Oklahoma, to a tropical storm soon to be Hurricane Zeta making landfall across coastal Louisiana and Mississippi as we get into Wednesday night. The two of those, the upper level system back toward the west and our tropical cyclone, will be bringing heavy soaking rains from the Gulf Coast northward to the Ohio River Valley as we head through the end of the week. Now here's a look at the radar picture again. Our frontal boundary kind of stalled across this region. We've got warm Gulf of Mexico moisture coming up and over the top of that, with a lot of cold air coming in across the Rockies. That cold air then cutting in underneath the precipitation, and that is what is leading to the accumulating snow and the ice storm threat across Texas and western Oklahoma. Now, here are those temperatures at 6 o'clock this morning. Again, the frontal boundary kind of located right across this region where we've got 30s, 40s, 20s, teens as you make your way back into the Texas and Oklahoma panhandle, with muggy 60s and 70s across the Gulf Coast over toward Florida. Now, as we look at the locations here, this map is showing every location that is setting a record low temperature here early this morning. And it's just an enormous area from the west coast, the Four Corners region, all the way into the Great Lakes, a huge area of cold air coming out of the Arctic and then spilling down into the southern U.S. Now, as we look at the next 5 days, our temperature anomaly forecast on the left, and then the total precipitation accumulation forecast through Saturday evening on the right. Again, our cold air mass, the coldest air is going to be situated here across New Mexico, Texas, and Oklahoma. We'll start to slowly modify that air mass as the upper level low begins to slowly migrate eastward deeper into the week. And then, of course, we've got Zeta and Zeta's moisture making its way into the Gulf Coast as we get into Wednesday and Thursday. And then our big cutoff low here will slowly begin migrating off to the east as we head through the next 48 hours. The two of which, we've got the tropical cyclone bringing a ton of deep moisture northward. But then we've also got this upper level low that, again, is going to be tapping into some southerly flow, warm air advection. So a tropical cyclone and an upper level disturbance advecting moisture northward from the Gulf of Mexico, and that's how we end up with 3 to 4 days of soaking rains across the region. Now, we'll go ahead and animate this map. We're looking at 500 millibar heights and wind speeds here. And so here's our big cutoff low, and then we've got Zeta across the Gulf Coast. This is as we get going here through mid-afternoon today, getting into Tuesday evening. Now, we'll take the drawings off, and as we head through Tuesday night into Wednesday, you're seeing Zeta make its way northward, and then it has this big bowling ball of a cutoff low starts to make its way east. The Zeta will eventually be deflected off to the east, making its way over toward the Carolinas as we get into Thursday, Friday, or through the day Thursday into Thursday night. Now, the upper level low trailing back behind it, that's going to keep upper level divergence, upper level support, rising motion through the column of the atmosphere as we head through Thursday into Thursday night across the mid-south, south toward the Gulf Coast. So that's Kentucky, Tennessee, southward down to the panhandle of Florida. And this will continue to move off to the east then as we head through Thursday night into Friday morning. Now, as we get through the day on Friday, this trough finally pushes itself off across the Atlantic. We've got broad ridging across the region. This is going to set up a much drier pattern then as we head through the weekend into next week, allowing us to finally begin to dry out across the region. As we look at the hazards map then, as we get started on Tuesday morning, we've got winter storm warnings across Texas and the Oklahoma panhandle, ice storm warnings through West Texas up into central Oklahoma, with a winter storm or winter weather advisory, surrounding that across portions of western into east central Oklahoma. And then, of course, we've got hurricane watches, storm surge watches, and tropical storm warnings, a few hurricane warnings in effect as well across portions of the Gulf Coast. Again, this is eastern Louisiana, coastal portions of Mississippi, Alabama, and far western portions of the Florida Panhandle. On the right, we've got the latest advisories from the National Hurricane Center. Again, as of 4 a.m., Zeta is a tropical storm, expected to intensify to hurricane status as we head through the end of the day today. That'll continue through the overnight, strengthening into the day on Wednesday, and then making landfall Wednesday evening into Wednesday night across coastal Louisiana, eastern portions of coastal Louisiana, and western portions of coastal Mississippi. Zeta will then be expected to weaken, of course, as it makes landfall down to a tropical storm as we get into Thursday morning. So by the time Thursday sunrise arrives here, Zeta's circulation should be somewhere over southwestern Alabama, again as a tropical storm, weakening to tropical depression status by Thursday afternoon, quickly accelerating off to the east and then kicking itself off across the Atlantic Ocean as we head into Thursday night. So I mentioned a lot of moisture in the area. We're looking at the precipitable water plot, and that essentially says, if you look straight up, how much moisture can you wring out of the atmosphere? And again, we'll be bringing a lot of moisture northward with Zeta. This is Zeta right now, and all of the deep moisture here. We're talking about precipitable water values upwards of 3 inches. And so as Zeta and its moisture continues to lift off to the north, we're also going to be having our upper level trough, this big cutoff low coming in from the west, and as would be expected, southerly flow in advance of that, warm air advection. We will be advecting a hurricane into the warm sector of our upper level low. So just kind of combining forces, even without a hurricane, we're talking about drawing a lot of moisture northward from the Gulf of Mexico here as we head through Wednesday night into Thursday across Louisiana, Arkansas, eastward across the rest of the Gulf Coast states. But throw in a tropical cyclone, a hurricane that's been, building its own moisture source here, so to speak, over the last several days. We are advecting a lot of moisture northward, a lot of upper level support, and that's going to set the stage for a pretty rainy next 48 to 72 hours. Now, the good news is drier conditions wait on the backside, but here's what we've got to get between now and then. And we'll look at the precipitation forecast here as we head through the day today. This is when the ice storm will be peaking, a winter storm back toward the west. Heavy snow across New Mexico and parts of the Texas panhandle here, West Texas. As you head further to the east, over toward I-35 as you get into the Oklahoma City area, into southern Kansas, back across west central portions of Texas. We're talking about ice accumulations over the next 24 hours. We've already seen some ice in that area, so we'll be putting that on top of things down there. So power outages, tree damage expected to be a pretty big concern across the western half of Oklahoma, back into the Texas panhandle as we head through the next 24 hours. Now we'll start to see our first outer bands of moisture starting to make their way into Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, the Florida panhandle, and Georgia here as we head through the overnight tonight. And then as we get into midday Wednesday, we'll start to see that moisture lifting up toward the Ohio River Valley. So the upper level trough starting to move off to the east as we get into Wednesday. Zeta nearing the coast. This is when the heavy rain is going to be really starting to take shape across the region as we head into Wednesday and then Wednesday night. This would be midnight on Wednesday night. Zeta has made landfall at this point and will be begin weakening and quickly moving off to the north and to the east. But the heavy rain is going to continue for another 24 to 36 hours with the upper level low trailing back behind. So here's what things look like as we wake up on Thursday morning. We should have tropical storm, probably tropical depression Zeta making its way through northern Mississippi into northern Georgia. Heavy rain extending to the north across parts of Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. You've got the upper level low off to the west, so we're still seeing some cold rain across Oklahoma, even through the day on Thursday. The rain will finally make its way out of Texas and Oklahoma, drying out Thursday night into Friday. We'll still have some residual showers here as much of the moisture and Zeta's circulation is moving off across the Atlantic, but we still have the upper level low. We've still got some upper level support to kind of wring the last bit of moisture out of the atmosphere here Thursday night into Friday morning. But things really begin to dry out quickly as we head through the day on Friday, and that officially brings us to a pause in the active pattern, a pause in the precipitation across the region as we dry out this weekend into early next week. But again, between now and then, a lot of rain to get out of the system. We've got ice storm and snow accumulation across the west. You're looking at total precipitation between now and Friday evening, and then total snowfall, same thing, between now and Friday evening. You can see I-70 is going to be generally the cutoff here between the heavy soaking rain and a much drier north edge. So as we look at Zeta making its way off to the north and eventually to the east, and then the upper level low making its way slowly off to the east, a lot of rain between now and Friday morning. We're talking about 2 to 4 inches of rain from Oklahoma. Of course, some of that falling as wintry precipitation eastward across Arkansas, Louisiana, and then into northern Georgia. Where we're expected to be a bit drier is going to be here across Florida, northward into southern Georgia, and then the south and western half of the Carolinas will be a bit on the drier side, being missed by much of Zeta's deeper moisture, and then, of course, being missed by the upper level low as it comes swinging back here. So if anywhere is going to be a bit drier here over the next 4 to 5 days, it's going to be the Florida Peninsula and then up into coastal portions of Georgia, South Carolina, and parts of North Carolina as well. Where we're expecting most of the snow to accumulate in excess of 6 to 10 inches of snow, the Oklahoma Panhandle, Texas Panhandle, back into New Mexico, and then of course, we're talking about freezing rain and ice accumulations across Interstate 35 west, across the western half of Oklahoma, including the Oklahoma City metro, back into western portions of Texas, generally a little bit to the west of the Dallas-Fort Worth metro as you head back toward the Panhandles. We'll be dealing with some gusty winds as well, of course, with Zeta. That's obvious. The strongest wind field is going to be on the east side of Zeta, likely making its way into coastal portions of Mississippi, Alabama, and the Florida Panhandle, and then lifting into Georgia and Alabama and Georgia as we head through Thursday morning. So as you wake up on Thursday morning, likely blustery and rainy with Zeta here across Mississippi and Georgia, but then also some strong winds here gusting 40 to 50 miles per hour coming on the backside of our trough. This is a cold north wind across Texas and Oklahoma, where we just saw a wind or an ice storm. So we'll be talking about the potential for additional tree damage and prolonged power outages across this region. So really a nasty early winter situation from New Mexico into the panhandles of Texas and Oklahoma, including western Oklahoma, all the way up to the Oklahoma City metro. Winds will continue to gust 30 to 40 miles per hour across parts of the south as the upper level low makes its way out of the area through the day on Thursday. Winds starting to subside with the rainfall here as we head into Friday, leading us into a much quieter, drier weekend and early next week. We'll finish with a look at those high temperatures again. Bitterly cold across the west, 20s for the highs today. An ice storm in progress, a winter storm in progress across New Mexico, Texas, and Oklahoma. Much warmer and muggier as you make your way off to the east, 70s and 80s for the highs today across Louisiana and Mississippi eastward to the Atlantic. Here's your highs for Wednesday. Thursday, we're starting to modify that air mass on the backside of the upper level low. Will slowly start to warm up, but temperatures generally below average until we make our way into the weekend.